in a situation where you get completely irritated by someone? Yes.
No, I'm just joking. Actually, you know what? It could be road rage. It could be that moment where you get cut off in traffic and then you like lose it, you go crazy, and you know, you're generally a patient and compassionate person.
Yeah, reactions and responses are usually triggered by more than what we realize that can be controlled.
Absolutely, but you know what? Dr. Marshall Goldsmith has advice for all of us on how we can sort of control that feeling and get control of our life, set goals, and keep them. I spoke to him about a book called Triggers, and he tells us more. Joining us today on Good Day Live, a very special guest, the author of the book Triggers, more importantly, a former resident of Terre Haute and a graduate of Rose-Hulman. Marshall Goldsmith, welcome to Good Day Live.
Thank you for inviting me to speak to people back in Terre Haute.
It is a thrill to have you on the show. Before we get to your book and the importance of how it's going to change a lot of lives, I do have to ask, what was it like going to Rose and being a graduate of such a fine institution?
Well, I went to undergrad school at Rose. I got a degree in mathematical economics. I was fortunate enough to graduate in 3 years. I got an MBA after that at Indiana and a PhD at UCLA. I can tell you, Rose was so much harder than those other places. Fantastic school, but I can tell you, it's tough. You go to school there, you have to work. Getting a PhD at UCLA was easy compared to going to undergraduate school there.
Well, you know, it is tough, and it obviously produces a lot of great people, just like yourself, sir, and clearly you are doing a lot now to make a difference in people's lives. Talk to me about this book, Triggers. I have had the chance to skim through it, and what I see is a book that I want to read because I want to make some changes in my life.
Well, in my book, I talk about why it's so hard for us to change. Why is it that we have these fantasies about who we want to become? We all have these wonderful dreams of this person we want to become. Why is it so hard to become that person? And then I've got some very practical ideas that are tested on how you can use these tools. I'm an executive coach, and I've coached about 150 of the top leaders in the world. If you look at the book, you can see who some of them are. And they'll tell you, even though they're smart people that want to get better, they're highly accomplished, it's hard for them to change too.
You know, the book does a good job, I think, of setting the groundwork of why we have what you call these triggers, or these reasons why we have a difficult time. Explain the title and what you mean by that.
Well, as we wander through life, we make these plans. What happens is a trigger is any stimulus from our environment that changes our behavior. We are constantly barraged by things we didn't expect, and they're constantly throwing us off course. And in the book, I talk about why it's important to learn how to anticipate these triggers, plan for these triggers, and then really factor in how challenging it's going to be to stay on that course and to become that person we want to be.
You do a good job, too, of helping us sort of day-to-day help to attain these goals by some simple things. What do you recommend to people who are setting these goals? What should we be doing?
Well, let me give you an example from the book that's very counterintuitive. I pay a woman named Kate to call me on the phone every day. Now, every day she listens to me read 29 questions that I wrote and provide 29 answers that I wrote, and she just says thank you and hangs up. Somebody asked me, why do you pay some woman to call you on the phone every day just to listen to you read these questions and give answers? Don't you know the theory about how to change behavior? I wrote the theory about how to change behavior. That's why I pay somebody to call me every day. I know how hard it is. You know why I pay somebody every day? I don't have the guts to do it myself. If I did, I wouldn't pay somebody. It's tough. I'm going to give you a challenge. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Here's the challenge. Every day, if you want to get better, you write down a description of the person you want to be in the form of questions. For example, how many times yesterday did I try to prove I was right when it wasn't worth it? That's a good one for the old professor here. So every day you write down these questions, and then every question has to be answered with a yes, a no, or a number. And then every day you fill out Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You fill out that Excel spreadsheet, Saturday, Sunday. And at the end of the week, you get a report card. Well, I do this day after day after day. It'll help you get better at almost anything. Most people quit within 2 weeks.
Really?
We don't quit because it doesn't work. We quit because it does work. It's real easy in theory. It's hard to look in the mirror every day. Why do I pay this woman to call me every day? Because if I left it to my own devices, I'd quit. I don't have that much guts. And you know what? Most people I work with don't either. The other thing is, we need help. It's okay to need help. The top 10 tennis players in the world, they all have coaches. Look at the people that I coach. These are fantastic, great people. They have a coach. Everyone in Hollywood has a personal trainer. They have a coach. Why do we need coaches? Not because we're bad. We need coaches because we want to get better. And that's kind of what I do for a living.
I love it. And it sounds to me like what we all need too is motivation. And I feel like that's something that people can get from this book as well. We are so grateful that you've given us the chance to give our viewers copies of the book. So we're thrilled to be able to say that we're going to give them the chance to win it. But to you, we say thanks for sharing your story. Thanks for writing this book to help us. And more importantly, we're so glad that you're a former resident of Terre Haute and a graduate of Rose-Hulman.
Well, hello to all the nice people in Terre Haute. So happy to be talking to people that are there.